I'm Emily Woodhouse. I'm Associate Professor in interdisciplinary environmental anthropology. So I'm going to give you an overview of the programme and allow lots of time for questions. Please do take the opportunity to ask me any questions after I've presented. So why this programme? What are you going to get out of this programme? So I think our programme is really unique in providing an anthropological and critical approach to environmental issues and questions of sustainable development. So focusing on the social, cultural and political aspects of some of the most important issues of our time. So the climate crisis, biodiversity conservation, issues of social justice, livelihoods, poverty at different scales. Another thing that I think is really special is that we bring a cross-disciplinary or multidisciplinary perspective, integrating both natural and social science perspectives to understand both the social and ecological processes and interactions. And drawing on different kind of theoretical approaches. So political ecology being one, so how processes of power play out in how people access natural resources, what the impacts of conservation and development programs are on people's lives, and how power is important in that. Human ecology, so the more kind of natural science kind of perspective, how people relate to their natural environments, ethnobiology, the kind of cultural aspects of those relationships, conservation science, and also social anthropology. And we're lucky to bring in staff with different perspectives, from the more ecological end to the more social and cultural anthropology perspective, and bringing their expertise from research that they've been carrying out in lots of different settings around the world, across different continents. We bring a really strong academic grounding that you'll get, but also our programme focuses on bringing, giving you applied training in research methods and policy-related topics that are really highly desirable by employers. So our students go on to do a range of jobs in policy and project work, in non-governmental organisations, governmental, think tanks, research agencies. Several students from each year often go on to PhD research to build an academic and research career later on. So just to give you an overview of how the programme is structured. So we have part of the programme is compulsory. There are 3 compulsory elements: the core course, research methods, and the dissertation. We also provide a lot of flexibility to pursue the topics that you're interested in. So you can take 3 option modules, and one of these should be from one of our specialist topics that are taught by AED staff members. I'll talk about those in a minute. You can also take options from UCL Anthropology, the broader department, and other departments at UCL. And sitting alongside the more formal teaching, we also put on research seminars, and there's lots of opportunities to do skills training, whether it's developing your skills in presentation or writing, to feed into your future careers. So the core course, which is called Resource Use and Impacts, it crosses both the first term and the second term. So the first term, you're introduced to key theoretical positions and concepts. So it's quite theory-based to give you a grounding for the rest of the programme, but we very much build this on empirical case studies from around the world in urban and rural settings, and active learning, group learning. So it's not, it is theory based, but it's also kind of real world as well. So you'll be introduced to things like, concepts of sustainable development. What does that mean? Political ecology. How can we conceptualize the world we live in as social ecological systems, common property theory. The second term is focused on research, design and methods. So those are the kinds of methods that are really important for environmental anthropology. How do people perceive and relate to their natural environments? How do they use natural resources? With a focus on mixed methods, so both qualitative and quantitative data. And also participatory methods are really important for us. So co-producing data with communities, so things like citizen science approaches, participatory mapping. You'll also get the basics of sampling, questionnaire design and ethics there as well. And that sits alongside the broader departmental anthropological method seminars, which introduce you to the basics of anthropological methods, so participant observation, living alongside people, taking part in their lives to understand them, taking field notes and interviews. And that is assessed through an assessment at the end of term 2 in preparation for your dissertation and applying those methods. So we have 3 specialist options which are likely to be running next year, of which you should take at least one. The first is ecology of human groups. So this brings a social and natural science approach to the study of rural production systems in the global south, and is likely next year to focus on pastoralist systems taught by Professor Catherine Homewood, and fisheries and fisher livelihoods taught by Professor Caroline Garraway. So this really looks at how people's livelihoods are structured, the kind rural economies, how people access and use natural resources, kinds of rules and norms that are in place, and the kinds of environmental and social changes and challenges that people are facing in these kind of systems. The second is a course on people and conservation. So this is one that I run. So the aim here is to really bring a multidisciplinary perspective to social ecological systems and nature, biodiversity conservation problems and practice. So take a really kind of applied approach. How can we improve conservation in terms of its effectiveness for nature, but also in terms of social justice? And I hope to give students the ability to really engage and debate on very contemporary, hot issues, such as the social impacts of protected areas, the increasing marketisation of nature, putting a dollar value on nature, things like ecotourism, biodiversity offsetting, the importance of gender when it comes to natural resource use, and the participation of women in decision making around the environment. And very important issues like illegal wildlife trade, and also looking to the future and kind of new types of conservation like rewilding. It's kind of a very hot topic at the moment, and the future of conservation. The third is an introduction to statistics for social scientists. So this is really helping students to get to grips with managing quantitative data and statistical analysis as well. It takes a very hands-on approach, group work, in a computer lab, using real data sets and providing skills development using statistical software. And it sits within learning about kind of mixed methods. How do we mix both quantitative approaches and qualitative, and the kind of range of quantitative methods that social scientists in environmental anthropology will be using, things like geographic information systems, mapping, big data sets, and how can we draw upon those. So that's taught by Dr. Raphael Chiavellotti, who's just joined our department. And then you can also take specialist options from within the anthropology department. Just given a range that students have taken in the past. It depends what is being offered that particular year that you join the programme. These are the kinds of topics and courses that students have taken. You can also look beyond the department to other departments as well if you have a particular interest in, whatever it is, marine conservation, that, there might be a module in geography that you can look at if it's available to our students. So there's quite a lot of flexibility there. And then finally, the dissertations. This is 50% of your grade on the programme, and it's often the most rewarding part of the programme. It's your opportunity to really do research on a topic that you've chosen and that you're really interested in, to put into practice everything that you've learned on the AED course. So we have students doing a whole range of different topics. Just looking at the photographs here, we've had students looking at beaver rewilding in Scotland and the kind of conflicts that that's generating with local farmers. We've had students looking at community food growing and community gardening in London and how that's kind of the politics of that and kind of processes of exclusion. Students stay in the UK, they go, they stick within Europe, or they may go further afield as well. We have students going around the world. This year we've got several students going to the Brazilian Pantanal, working with Rafael. So looking at the governance of that wetland and things like human-wildlife conflict with jaguars. We've got one student going back to home country of New Zealand, but then we've also got students planning to stay in London and looking at green spaces and rewilding in London, climate change activism and climate change messaging. So, the opportunities are endless. It's really, what you're interested in doing. The last thing to mention is the human ecology research group. So every master's student doing AED becomes part of this long established research group who meets every week, normally on a Tuesday afternoon. And so this is a community of academics and students and activists in some cases who are interested in human environment relationships. So we have external speakers coming to speak about their research, but we also have PhD students. And it's really a lovely forum to introduce research, have discussion and questions and debate. And this is really a major learning forum for our master's students in terms of understanding how research is carried out and what kind of research methods people are using, but also in your kind of critical skills building in terms of how to ask a pertinent question, how to take part in debates and discussion as well. We have a strong alumni network from this research group. We've got people who've become, professors all around the world, who've become activists, who've got key roles in government and non-governmental organisations. You can read more on the website. We also have a Twitter account now, so you can follow our activity too. So I'll leave it there and give you an opportunity to ask questions. Thank you very much.